Hello and welcome to Connecting with the Stars with Mary Edwards. And I'm here with the wonderful Sheila Seppi. How are you today, Sheila?
I'm awesome. How are you, Mary?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. We're here, right? And what could
Yay!
bring
Woohoo! There
it
you go.
So,
No complaint.
yeah, no, it's wonderful to have you and always be around your great energy. So it's always a
Oh,
pleasure. So after a brief introduction, I will let her dive in to tell you a little bit about her soul alignment healing technique that's new and exciting that I think you'll all enjoy hearing about. So for anyone who doesn't know Sheila, she is an author, a mystic, an international speaker, a regression therapist, healer, and spiritual teacher. She is the founder and creator of this new incredible the Conscious Awakening Network called CAN, that is a progressive media platform that provides inspirational videos on humanity's evolutionary path. She states we offer hundreds of hours of videos to help expand your awareness, evolve your consciousness, and transform your body and mind. Our out-of-the-box interviews and educational programming includes topics such as ancient origins angelics, walk-ins, hybrids, starseeds, extraterrestrials, ascension, deep space, spiritual awakening, channeling, health and healing, light language, the paranormal, and much more, and now including documentaries, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. The forward-thinking videos help to normalize conversations around topics traditionally considered taboo. So I'm excited to be here to have you share a little bit more about yourself and talk about your soul healing technique that you're going to be sharing with people today as well. So
Yeah.
start wherever you like, but to me, a walk-in is the wildest thing I've ever heard out of everything. So anyway, you are really something, and you're going to be talking about soul healing. Well, boy, that's a
It
soul
is.
healing shift that I've ever heard of. So please
Yeah.
continue.
I'll tell a little bit about my story and
Yes.
then we'll just kind of progress from there because the soul healing and the can and everything that I do comes in as a result of my being a walk-in. And so back in 1999, actually in September the 22nd, 1999, I went to bed a very sick person. I was plagued with a host of illnesses. I had been diagnosed clinically, had an oncologist with bone cancer, brain tumors, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. I used to walk with a cane. I had erythema nodosum. I had sarcoidosis. I had migraines every day, and you name it, my health was going down the toilet. I was in a dysfunctional marriage. I was in a high profile job, and I was absolutely exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, anything else that I could have been exhausted. I was exhausted. So, what happened is basically I went to bed being very sick, and I guess it felt to me like it was about 7 o'clock the next morning. Someone reached down, grabbed me by the hair of the head, pulled me bolt right up in bed, and it was like lightning ran through my body. And then I was in white space. Now, a lot of people who are near death experiencers talk about white space. At the time, I didn't know what was happening to me. I just knew I liked it because I had no pain. I had no kids, mommy, 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 no husband, no phones ringing, no anything. And I was at peace, total peace. And I had not been like that in a long time. And I don't know if I had ever experienced that kind. It was just pure unconditional love.
Mm.
But I wasn't there as long as I would like. And the next thing I know, my peripheral vision started coming in and then my frontal vision. And as I sat there in the bed, I was looking around, wondering, number one, what the heck am I doing sitting up in the bed? But number two, what just happened? Why am I sitting up in the bed? Why this lightning? Where's the white space? What's going on? Was I dreaming? Was I having a nightmare? I had no clue. But I turned to get out of the bed and I put my feet on the carpet, and it was like, ooh, gushy, because it was like I'd experienced carpet for the first time, and it felt pretty good. And then I was walking by a mirror on my way to the restroom, and when I looked in the mirror, I just stopped. I was looking at my hair and my teeth, and I was looking at my eyes, and it was like I was actually seeing myself for the first time. And I really felt as if I was looking out of somebody else's eyes. I had no, and these feelings were so visceral. I don't think that I will ever forget these sensations. But what happened to me is not only had I gone to bed a very sick person, but I also had a very closed mind. And by that, I mean, I did not believe in past lives, nor would I even entertain the thought of it. I thought it was the biggest bunch of hooey I'd ever heard. I did not believe in anything outside the scope of Western medicine because they were the ones that were saving my life. And I didn't know anything about any kind of quantum science or metaphysics or anything that was outside of mainstream. I had never read the first book on metaphysics. So I was just, very, very tightly condensed in this little bitty box. And all of a sudden it was opened because as I was walking around, I began to realize and remember past lives that I didn't believe in. I remembered healing modalities that I had never studied. And I also remembered universal information that I had never read about. And so I'm pretty freaked out at this point, you could say the least, because mainstream did not allow for this thing and whatever this thing was. And if you had told me that I was a walk-in at the time, I would have laughed you out of the room. Or if you had told me about past lives, I would have laughed you out of the room because I thought, oh, that's just a cop-out for personal responsibility. So limited in my thinking. So anyway, as the day went on, more and more of these things began to occur. I would see people walking down the hallway. I would begin to hear things, and I didn't realize it at the time, but my clairvoyance, clairaudient, clairsentience, all the clairs actually had been activated. Now, for me, I didn't know about the clairs. And so with a background in psychology, I thought I was having a psychotic break. I thought that all of whether it was the medications, the illness, the dysfunctional marriage, whatever it was, had just finally taken its toll on me, and I had a break. So I began to share my experience with people, and the first thing, it was like, you better not be telling anybody this. They're going to lock you up. And then within 3 months, I had left that dysfunctional marriage. And more people were like, you better not be talking about this because they might take your children away. And when you go to court, you don't want that. So I was like, oh no. So I very quickly stopped talking about it. But within another 3 months, I accepted a position in another state, and by that time now I'm a single mom. So I'm checking out the schools. I'm looking at all the amenities in the area. What kind of clubs are there? Where's the pool? That kind of thing for the kids. And I picked up a telephone directory because we didn't have Google then. And so I picked up the telephone book, was flipping through the pages, and it was almost like this light was shining on this ad in the back for spiritual counseling. And so immediately I picked up the phone and called this lady and said, I think I'm having a psychotic break. I need to see someone as soon as possible. So she called me back the next day. We got an appointment set up, and I went to see her. When I got there and I was explaining everything, she was like, I just don't see any evidence that you're having a psychotic break. Everything that you're telling me, the way you're speaking, the way you're conducting yourself, you seem to be pretty grounded in reality. And I was like, no, there's something wrong with me. And to be honest, I expected after I told her my story, she'd give me a little blue pill. I'd take it, life would be the same, because I was used to taking a lot of medicine at that time. But what she told me is we needed another appointment. And so when I came back this next time, and maybe it was the following time, I don't exactly, recall the exact timeline, but within the first couple of visits, she had told me that she believed that I was what was called a walk-in. Mm. Now, thank goodness I went to this psychologist and not a different psychologist or psychiatrist, because um, she was of Hopi lineage and she was very, very familiar with walk ins. Actually, she herself was a walk in and she recognized that I was a walk in. And so then I was really angry. It's like, what do you mean I walk in, one soul out, another soul in? That's not the way this works. And so anyway, I continued to study with her. And once I really got anchored in to my new living spaces, I started studying with her. And I would attend what's called circles with other women. And we began to learn shamanic practices that were based in, Hopi knowledge. That is what really saved my life. And that's what anchored me in as a walk-in. And it took me years to really be able to work through all of the cellular programming that was in this body, because when you have a walk-in, it's one soul out, another soul in. And when that happens, you're getting a used car, basically. And so immediately, which I didn't know at the time, but I was immediately healed when the walk-in came in. And when I went to my next doctor's visit, they were dumbfounded. They had absolutely no explanation for what had happened. And so I just kind of, I'm like, okay, out of sight, out of mind, check that off the list. Let's go on to the next thing. And so I was extremely thrilled, obviously, but I thought, oh, it was because I divorced my husband. So I thought, well, there went my sickness right there. And I'm sure that that did have a lot to do with it. But I was immediately healed as soon as the walk in came in. But then it was a process of learning um, to kind of get my health out of the toilet, because as the walk-in, the things that the old person liked, the new person didn't. And so I dressed differently, I ate differently, I spoke differently, my articulation level was probably my IQ probably doubled. But everything about me was so different and everybody noticed. And when I even shared this with my teacher, she's like, well, those are very typical attributes of what you will see in a walk-in soul. So shamanism really anchored me in, and I began to shamanically travel, which means that I would go into, with my consciousness, non-ordinary reality, into the upper world or into the middle world or into the lower world. And in the lower world, that is where I would work with my guides. Now, I'm not talking about Hades or the underworld. I'm talking about the lower world, as far as, the etheric realm. Within the astrals. And so when I was there, I began to receive teachings from my spirit guides. And I would look at them because I was learning about spirit guides. I was like, oh, yeah, I've got those. I've got those. Yeah, I've got totems. I've got totems, And of course, I was an A student at this because, as they say, I was just fresh off the boat, freshly incarnated, and I could just connect, at a heartbeat. I still can, but, then it was just bam. So I worked with my guides and they began to teach me and to help me understand that, yes, in fact, I was a walk in. And my concern was that I had kidnapped the body, kicked out the other soul, and taken it over. And they're like, no, 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 it doesn't work that way. This is a pre-birth agreement. And then sometimes, in my case, it was an emergency situation, which I'll get to. But in working with my guides and having the kind of connection with them that I have, they are still with me all the time, because when I incarnated, I came in from a collective. And that collective means that I had the aspect of me had called back all of its multidimensional aspects that was having experiences. And I had actually merged my consciousness with other consciousness. So I guess we were like, seventh density beings, something like that. And so we were in the Andromedan system when we heard a cry from Gaia. And I guess, Dolores Cannon, which I didn't even know about her until after she had passed, but she talks about the 3 waves of volunteers. And so I assume that we were one of those waves, because we came in around the 80s and we were here for like the convergence and the concordance. But being a calling all your multidimensional aspects back means that all of those other aspects that were out, like in the Palladian system or in the Arcturian system or wherever it was that they were, we all had come back, finished whatever it was we needed to do, and had come back as the one entity. And then we merged with others. But when we came to help Gaia, there was already a huge number of souls here that was not waiting to incarnate, but they were working on the crystalline grid of Gaia. And so we merged our consciousness yet again. Now, when we say we're working on the crystalline grid, the way that I see the crystalline grid, it's almost like a honeycomb structure. And each of those little honeycombs actually is the place of our Shantias Khan, which I'll come back to in a second. But what connects each of those little honeycomb structures together is the crystalline grid. And that's kind of what we were working in. And then beneath all of that, you have the collective consciousness of humanity. And so we were working to beam unconditional love and ascension codes to help people to wake up. So when I incarnated, it was decided by the collective that I would be the aspect to come in, but I never lost that connection. So it was easy for me to do all the things that I was doing. Now I want to back up real quick and talk about the Shantias Khan, because as I understand it, our oversouls are multiple layers. And the way that my guides began to teach me, and I promise I'm getting to that, to the soul healing, because I really want to talk about it. But what happened is with at the very beginning, when Source desired to know itself, and that, Om, or that first sound, came forth, and out of that sound created the light. And then there was vibration and frequency, and then there was your oscillations, and then there was the patterns that began to form. So it was kind of like a loom. But within these patterns were all the creation templates and all the blueprint templates for everything that was to come. All of the Source, creator consciousness, God consciousness in these little what Source wanted to achieve was all in these little templates. So one of those templates had to do with oversouls. And so when we start out, we have this huge master oversoul, and then it kind of comes down in various layers. So we've got, say, take this universe, because as I've been told, there's 22 different universes, that they've taken me to several of them. But within this universe, there's a universal oversoul, and then you have a galaxy oversoul for each of the galaxies that's in this universe. Then you have a solar system oversoul. Then you have a planetary oversoul. Then you have what comes in as us, as the individual oversoul, which is that goes into the Shantias Khan. We're still connected to the larger one, but when we decide to incarnate, it's kind of like our little time capsule that we come in. And so it has everything, all of the tools, all of the resources that we're going to need while we're having this Earth experience. And it's kind of like, our own personal cloud storage where we can upload and download information. So when we incarnate, that stream that comes down to connect with the physical form is called the soul, but that stream itself is called the higher self. And then what creates our etheric bodies, that's our spirit. So they were giving me this teaching, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. This is wonderful. I'm loving this. And so life is going on. Then all of a sudden they start telling me, go bigger. I'm like, what? What do you mean go bigger? So by this time I had remarried, moved to Colorado, had my own healing wellness center called Spirit Way Wellness. And because I was just starting out, I had a lot of luxury time on my hands. So I spent a lot of time with my guides as they're giving me these teachings. So I'm like, what do you mean go bigger, go bigger? They're like, go bigger, go bigger. So I took that as I needed to learn more healing modalities. And so I did. I learned a ton of healing modalities, and I actually expanded and had 2 offices. Go bigger, right? So I move in, I've got my second office one day, and everything's fine. I'm working, I've got all these tools in my toolbox. Everything is wonderful. I'm working on a client, and I hear right behind me, go bigger. I just about jumped out of my skin. I was like, ah! And then the person, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? I think I saw a mouse. I don't know. I think that's what I said, or a spider or something. But anyway, so I'm like, go bigger. I just kept thinking about it. It's like, oh, I need to bring other practitioners in. So I did. I brought other practitioners in with me, and everything was wonderful. Everything was fine. Then the next thing I know, go bigger. And I'm like, I don't understand what you mean, go bigger. And it was like, okay, bring speakers in. So I'm like, oh, I can do that. So I started inviting speakers to come in to my wellness center, and we would have gatherings, 30, 40 people. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. And then I'm hearing go bigger again. Well, the next thing I'm doing, I'm working 5 days a week. I'm doing these workshops. I've got 7 circles of my own because I'm trying to go bigger under the directive of my spiritual team. Well, the next thing, the go bigger meant to have more events, go larger in my mind. Just go larger, go larger. So that's what I was planning to do. That year was the same year that I had been invited for the first time ever to make a presentation about a walk-in. And I was all to pieces. I'm like, how do you even begin to articulate this experience, these emotions, what you see when you're on the other side? Nobody's going to believe me. They're going to laugh me out of the room. They're going to think I'm a Fruit Loop. But my husband's like, just calm down. They wouldn't have asked you if they didn't want to hear. So he helped me put a PowerPoint together. So I had done that. And then the idea of writing a book continued to come. But I'm like, I don't have time to write a book. I'm working every day. I'm doing events. I've got circles, wah, wah, wah. And so guess what happens? My liver fails. My kidneys fail. My spleen shuts down. This was in April of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a very weird situation. There's a lot involved with that. But I would just say I called a friend while I was recuperating, and she said, have you ever stopped to think that maybe Spirit's trying to tell you to write your book? Oh, this was Barbara Lamb. And so I had literally just been out to visit with Barbara when this event started occurring, which is a long story in of itself. So we'll just skip through that. But so as I'm sitting there in my chair, I'm putting all of this together, and I had a rough draft. And in June, so everything failed. Oh, they told me I had to have a liver transplant, to which I said, thank you very much. I don't believe I do. And I got up and walked out of the hospital. They called 3 times. You got to come back. You got to come back. And I'm like, lose my number. It's not happening. Not happening. And because my collective had already said, it's passing, don't worry about it, just keep going on. And so anyway, that's what I did. Well, when this big event took place, it came time to do it on the land. Then I had Andrea Peerin that was staying with me at the house, and I said, hey Andrea, will you take a look at this and see what you think? And she read through my first rough draft, and she's like, oh my God, this is wonderful, you got to print the book. So I'm like, okay, great. So that gave me the encouragement. I had Barbara and I had both of these women telling me to go ahead and to, write the book. So the book came out and it's published, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm safe. Everything is great. Then I hear go bigger. So the only thing I could assume, okay, so I've got to take the walk-in story bigger. I don't know what to do. And we had stayed in touch, the people that I had interviewed for my book, Walk-ins Cosmology to the Soul. And I had 15 other interviewees. And when I interviewed them, I really expected their stories to be just like mine. And I was dumbfounded that they wasn't anything like mine. There were a couple people who had similar experiences, and we would be what's called a soul exchange walk-in, where one soul goes out and a different soul comes in. Then we had soul infusions, where people were pulling down new aspects from their oversoul. We had people who were called overlays. So there would be, and here's the soul, there'd be an aspect that would come in and actually overlay top of the soul and serve as a battery charger. There were twin souls. There were multi-dimensional souls, multi-layered souls. And I was just like, oh, who knew? Who knew? But we were all super excited because it's like, yay, another walk-in, yay. And so we wanted to stay in contact with each other and decided that we were going to do a conference. And so I was on Phil Gruber's show, and I was talking about what I wanted to do next. And Alan Steinfeld was on there, and he's like, oh, I know exactly who you need to talk to. So he introduced me to Neil Gar, and then we had the first walk-in conference. And then after the walk-in conference, I was inundated with letters and emails, people saying, this is the first time people are speaking my language. This is the first time I've felt at home. You know, I'd love to keep this going. So I'm like, okay. So I developed what then was called the Wish Alliance, walk-ins, indigos, starseeds, and hybrids. And so this organization began to grow. We have ambassadors. Please, everybody, check it out, wishalliance.org. It's a phenomenal organization for like-minded individuals. We're from all over the cosmos, and we're here to help raise the consciousness of the planet. And so what ended up happening is every Monday night and every Thursday night, we have what's called Cosmic Conversations, because all of the people from the walk-in conference was still looking for information, education. And so we decided to bring in speakers on a weekly basis. And so we still do that Monday, Wednesday. So sign up, get on our mailing list, Monday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So I'm thinking, easy peasy, man. I'm on easy street now. I've got this international organization set up. We're getting the message out. I've got all kinds of ambassadors so everybody can hear everybody else's stories. Great. Then I heard go bigger. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But they wanted me to write another book, which I am in the process of doing right now. It started out, I thought, was going to be 8 interviews, and now we have 40 interviews, so it takes a little time. So I'm working on that. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting these messages. You've got to figure out a way to get the Cosmic Conversations promoted more. You've got to get these phenomenal messages out. And by now, I've heard this go big enough times that I knew I better go big. And the other thing was, it's like, you know what? I will do whatever you want me to do, but you've just got to give it to me, because I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know how to go about doing this. I don't know exactly what you want. And within 2 days, I had a meeting with a guy who said, hey, why don't we put Cosmic Conversations on television? We'll build an app. You can be on Roku, Amazon, Apple TV. You can have your own app. You'll have your own website. Then you can do all this social media, blah, 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 and you can get all your messages out. Wow. 2 days. And so I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. But then it's like, I don't want to do this by myself. I want people to play with. And so that's what I did. I began to talk to other people and to invite them. And so this year, on October the 15th, we launched the Conscious Awakening Network. And it is a conscious multimedia platform that allows different hosts like yourself to share their interviews, to share music, to share art, to share all kinds of things. And so right now we have probably close to 500 viewing hours, and it is, and we just started, 3 months old, just started. So this is phenomenal. So if you're watching this and you have not downloaded your app, I'm going to be the commercial here. You can download it either on Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, or you can go to your phone app store and download it, or you can even visit our website at consciousawakeningnetwork.org. We also, we're on Facebook and YouTube and all the social media platforms. So I got that going, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is absolutely phenomenal. I haven't heard go bigger yet. We are expanding the network. Fingers crossed. I'm on mission. I'm on task. I'm doing what I need to do. But I think I really think that this is what they had intended all along, because, our voices carry a certain resonance in them, and people will be drawn to a resonance, a vibration. And if they're not drawn to my vibration, they may be drawn to your vibration, or they may be drawn to another host's vibration. at any rate, we're getting the message out, and we're also tapping into a population that we have not typically tapped into, the television viewing audience. Because if people are looking for spiritual content and they're already looking for that on YouTube, they're going to find a plethora of that. But if they're looking for spiritual content on a television channel, there's very limited things to choose from. And so I'm very, very excited about that. And recently, I also do private sessions, and you can visit SheilaSeppi.com. And one of the private sessions is I work with people on their crystalline blueprint. So if you imagine within your etheric field, there are all these various layers that we call bodies, and people call them different things depending on, what tradition that you believe in. But we have all these different bodies, and when I look at the bodies, I can see the crystalline structures. I can see if there are blockages in there, because sometimes they look like little hair tangles to me, and then they'll look like gray areas. Or I also see how the light runs through these gridded systems, and I know the colors of lights and how they should be running and what they're supposed to look like. And if they're not running properly, then they have to be reconnected. Well, the Arcturians had come to me and said, hey, we will help you with this. And I'm like, oh, bonus. And so I developed this technique where I do go in and I look at the crystalline grid. The Arcturians come in and they help with some of the repair work. And then the session's over. Well, all of a sudden this year, as the Arcturians would come in, they would just kind of step back. And I'm like, well, what the heck is that about? Are they not going to do the session? Did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? But it was not that at all. There were the Angelics and there were the Andromedans that started coming in. And they said, we're going to show you how to work on the ley lines of the body. And I'm like, oh, you mean meridians? They're like, no, ley lines. And I'm like, you mean meridians, right? That's what we call them, meridians. No, ley lines. So
get another layer, another whole layer.
Yeah, it's like, okay. So I just watched, I just observed what they did, and they began to perform a technique that I had not seen performed before. And I thought, oh, wow, that was amazing. This guy must have a very strong Andromedan and angelic connection. This is fantastic. And he was thrilled. He felt wonderful, all kinds of things. Then it happened again. And then it happened again. And then the third time, I'm like, this is amazing, because they kept telling me more and more. And they said, go back through your notes, look at what we've done, and you're going to turn this into a course. And I'm like, well, this is my technique. What do you mean I'm turning it into a course? This is how I make my money. And they're like, you're going to turn this into a course, because we are going to give you step-by-step instructions where people do not have to be clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, or anything. They do not even have to have a very strong intuition, although the ones that come to take this course, you will eventually help them to develop that so they can do it exactly the way that you're doing it. And I'm like, and so this technique works in 12 layers within our field. I didn't know there were 12 layers, but there were 12 layers within our field. It reconnects us to our 12-strand DNA, and it works its way up. It connects us through all 12 of the basic chakras. And of course, there are more chakras and there are more nadis. But they gave me the 12 basic ones to work with.
Are you talking about the 12 ley lines, the 12 ley lines?
The ley lines, when this reconnective work is done within these ley lines, what happens is there's a reconnection process that begins to take place. And it reconnects you all the way back to divine source. It reconnects you all the way back to your original oversoul. It reconnects you all the way to the 12-strand DNA. It reconnects you within all of those 12 chakras and above. it reconnects you with all of these divine source layers that they are telling me about, and all of these various layers of consciousness. They even gave me frequencies for each of these layers that people can actually, when they're working with people, they can play the frequencies, kind of make a little soundtrack. I think that's the next thing I have to do. But you make a little soundtrack, you work within each of these layers for so long, and then you move to the next layer and the next layer and the next layer, and all of this reconnection process is occurring. And so, you know, I'm almost ready to launch this, and they just gave it to me. The most in-depth thing is the write-up about what are your dimensions, what are the densities, what are all the layers of the soul, what is this, what is this. But once that is complete, I'm ready to go. And I really think that I'm going to be able to launch it just in like next month.
Incredible. So explain then, so you have all the layers. So this new ley line, this is a new thing that they knew about, and this is a brand new thing that wraps all the other things together. How does the visually, how does that work?
So the visual would be, if you have a person standing in the center of, if you draw a person on a piece of paper, then there are 12 circles around that person. Those 12 circles are within the entirety of the aura. Okay.
Right.
So what they do is, what they were showing me, there's an angelic on one side, there's an Andromeda on the other, and they literally lift up, in my mind, what looks like a filtration system. Now, when I do this work, I'm just looking in the grid and I'm seeing the dysfunction. But when they pull this up, all of that is contained within this little kind of like a box that also, it looks like a filter. It looks like a piece of graph paper, and it looks exactly like what I see when I'm looking at the aura. And so that gets pulled up, and there's a reconnection process. There's almost like light that they use that kind of cleans and clears everything. There's a repair process, and there's an infusion process, and there's a linkage process that takes place. And when they link everything back together, that's when we're connected to all of these dimensions. That's when we're connected back in with all of these chakras. That's when we're connected in with all these layers of our oversoul. That's when we're connected back in with all of these layers of consciousness. So
this is an additional frequent in the electrical box of our building. This is one more that, where was it before? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Where
it was there already.
It was
there already, because you have to realize, when you're dealing with etheric matter, it can be 50 miles long, but we're only seeing that. I mean, the way I see it is still like 3D. You know, I'm just, or actually 2D, because I'm just seeing the structures going around the body. And so they actually like go in and pull things up out of that, and they begin to work and to clear it. And so I was used to doing that myself. I was used to going in and identifying these wounds, like, okay, what they're showing me is that when you were 3 years old, X, Y, and Z happened, and these are the emotions now that are stuck in this particular layer. Do I have permission to clear them? Yes. So then we start to clear them. Now, then I need to reconnect people. And then what they're doing is they're literally pulling this filtration system up. And so it's going much, much deeper than this, what I was doing originally. So now I've started incorporating that into my soul healing, instead of doing it the way that I originally was, because of this phenomenal new technique that they're giving me. But it really connects people back through space and time, all the way back to their original divine blueprint. And there's so much information that can be gathered through that. And so I was used to doing this myself, and I had my process, and I was very happy with my process. And then I asked for a guinea pig.
Wow.
A guinea pig. Do you want to tell people how you felt after? And I was following step by step their process, because this process, they said, anybody can do. that you don't have to have any spiritual gifts. You don't have to have anything, although we all have spiritual gifts, blah, blah. But they said, anyone can do this. You give them, you teach them, they can do it. And so I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know. So I'm like, hey, Mary.
I love being your guinea pig for that. It, because I've done housing my whole life too, like for 50 years, I see everything as electrical charges too, because I'm hypersensitive. But while you were working on me, it was like I could feel, not tugs, but I could literally feel as if it was, because I used to have a rug business in India. I love rugs. I love design. I love structure. So I literally felt like you were electrical engineer with gifted light workers literally around me here the other day. And I slowly, I mean, quickly, but slowly in the hour that it took, which was amazing. I thought, okay, let's see what this is going to be. If it's Sheila, I know it's going to work. I've never felt so light. I've never felt so calm. I've never felt so, I could start crying right now. I'm so moved by this, what you did. It was very safe, what they did. And I opened up, and it opened up my chakras. I could feel, I've always felt chopped off from childhood trauma, and like we all have trauma. We all carry too many things in ourselves. And I knew I didn't know how to get it up myself. So obviously, and this, you just got this incredible new system. I opened up this, my heart, all my chakras up and down. I literally felt like I was all connected in an electrical box, like the black box of an airplane, or my electrical box that's over there. Because I had a flood here, and we had to renovate the whole. I had renovated the whole place. And it was like, oh my God, I have all new wiring, and I literally, it was in. I've felt totally different. I'm sleeping differently. You got some of the grunge out of me, the hair, the dark parts that were hidden and stuck, that have not allowed me for 70 years to open up. And so thank you. It's changed my life. It worked, and it was unbelievable. And it took 55 minutes, and you all changed me. And it was unbelievable. So I cup runneth over. Thank you so much for the most incredible thing. And I've had work done on the last few years. I've always wanted to keep opening up and getting my pain out, getting all the stuff we carry. It is the time to open up and go deep inside, but I don't have the skills to do that. And you have created this, and your team, have created this amazing new system. Because I literally feel like my whole energy has changed. People have noticed it. I was at a school thing for my daughter last night, and everyone said, "Man, you look so different." And I said, I got rewired, baby. I got grounded and plugged in and elevated by Sheila in Colorado more than I ever have. So that's awesome. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you so much. It really, I was ready, but to open up, and you came in and just, I said, just rooter me out. It was just, I was open, and it was effortless, and it was beautiful. So thank you. 1,000 thanks for what you did.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate your being a guinea pig, because I knew you would be honest. And I expected you to say, well, I kind of felt this, but da-da-da. And they told me, when I asked them, I said, why now? Why do you want me to do this? I'm already doing soul healing. And it's like, you can't heal everybody that needs to be healed. You have to train other people to do this, and we're going to tell you how. And then it's like, I dropped into my humbleness, and it was like, oh, thank you, kind of thing. And first off, it took a big burden off of me, because when they give me stuff, I really feel like I've got to do it. But to know that I can teach other people that will teach, or that will work on other people. And then that's phenomenal. And they said, now is the time. And I'm like, well, when I'm doing soul healing, I identify the wound and we clear it and we talk about things that they may need to do. And they're like, we're just taking care of it. It's time. It's time. And they just, I mean, they take care of it instantaneously. And I'm just like, oh, I want a session.
Right, well, it's true. And plus with January 21st, like being, tomorrow, Moon in Aquarius, last year, I mean, this is the biggest year of our lives, this year,
It
next
is.
year, as
It
we all
is.
know. And the minute we met and the last few years has been just extraordinary watching you gently, quickly, efficiently, carefully go bigger, bigger, bigger. I kept going, wow. And how I watching you do can and put that together. You are a bright light and you were put here to help many, 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 the masses really wake up and become connected so we can be work as efficiently and more and better than we ever could. And I literally am a different person. I've never
Yeah.
felt so at peace.
That,
Ever.
that
And
I mean, that really warms my heart because I know that's exactly, what they're looking for and what they want to have happen with people is to have these changes because we're not designed to be in this, fight or flight stress mode all the time. We're not designed to be in fear. We're designed to experience unconditional love. We're designed to have joyful and playful lives. And so when I first came in, because the soul that had been in this body had already laid an Arcturian energetic framework. The aspect of me that first came in was that of the Arcturian. And as I began to clear the cellular structure, the old programming, the old stories, the trauma dramas from this body, then I could imprint more and more of my own energy. And they said that's exactly what this technique is doing. Because now I hold more of my fullness from my collective, and I have multiple aspects running, predominantly that now of the Andromedas and the Angelics. And so I think that's why they came, to help me because that's, the most energy that I'm running right now. But what they said is just like how I came in and how the energy of this soul just magnified the cellular structure so that it could begin to release all of that trauma drama. This is what this technique is doing. It's energizing the entire field. And when we start to work on the outside and we work our way in, first I was working on the outside, and it's like, no, I need to do it from the outside in. And so they honestly said that it's going to depend on the person which way that we start, because some people's polarity is switched. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I've got two different techniques that I'll be teaching people in this one course. But what happens is when you go to the outside and you start working, you're compressing and you're bringing more information in, more pure information in, so that this etheric template, our crystalline template out here, can actually then compress into our etheric body, our body double, which holds all the blueprints for the physical body, as well as the spiritual codes. It begins to infuse it and compress it with more and more information. And they said that's what people need now because of all of the photonic waves that are coming across the planet, because of all the astrological alignments that's happening. We have to be, and one of the things that they do is they lock people in to the iron core in the center of the earth so that we can remain physically grounded while we expand spiritually. And they also told me that when I'm like, oh, wow, this is connecting all of this stuff. And then, the ascension, and what they told me is it's about dropping into who we already are. It's releasing all of these stories, these false tales about we are separate, that we can only be 3D. And they showed me this conduit of energy that I'll be showing people, that how we can travel up into all of these various dimensions and all the way back up into that source energy, which we're already there. We're already connected. And so it's like
It's
the
a higher
ascension is
vision.
the ascension, and the extent, it's an ascension, 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 ascension. And we just keep taking our consciousness higher and higher by the way that we heal ourselves. And so by connecting us into the earth, we're grounded so that when we receive these new light codes to the body, that we are stable enough to be able to hold them once all the clearing takes place.
Well, also it's the most beautiful tool of connection, and the ascension all at once. And it's to be able to teach that to a group of people. I can't wait to take it myself. I mean, this is what we need. The division is so divided right now. And we thought, this is going to be through communication. Well, obviously that's not working. Don't we turn the news on for 1 minute. We know that we needed more help. And because everything is happening at the speed of light, it's like, we need this on steroids to be able to keep up so we can keep being more effective and move with how quickly this information is shifting and changing, because everything's changing. We all know that. There is no yesterday. It's today at the speed of light.
Right.
And this is one of the most beautiful things that has ever happened to me. And I'm so grateful for you and your team to re-electrify me and ground me and elevate me in the same body and let go of all the weight. I've been so exhausted for my whole life carrying all this and not knowing, and I've done lots of different things, that, and I've done some amazing things with you, but to be able to have this sort of one-stop shop, it's like Tesla, plug us into the wall, get this, give us the energy so we can just perform. In finely tuned form of love and groundedness and activity, where it's calm and centered and so connected. I mean, it really is remarkable. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Oh my God. Well, this has been unbelievable. So how are people going to find out about this? How can they look? Are you going to have this on your website in a week?
I am. And it'll be on the SheilaSeppi.com website. And that's, all you have to do is go there. You can put in your information. And once I have this developed, there'll be a section where people can go ahead and sign up. But I honestly think that I'm going to be able to have this ready like within a month and ready to go, because they're just like taskmasters. Let's get this done. Let's get this done. Let's get this done. And they're helping me every step of the way. I am so blessed with so much support from my collective. And I'm so blessed in my earth walk to have a wonderful team that honestly does all of the work with Can and gets the videos uploaded. I mean, they are phenomenal. And then to have excellent hosts like yourself that are participating in this to try to get the message out to people that we are so much more than we've been told that we are. And we can never be alone. We can never be disconnected. And so if people only hear one thing from tonight, that's what I really hope that they will hear, because we are totally guided, guarded, and protected at all times. We couldn't be alone if we wanted to. We are so surrounded. We have so much support.
And I feel that all day, every day, even more so now. But I truly think this is going to be life-changing for a lot of people. And it is time now, like you say, there's nothing, and it's January, and it's only January, and look at, so anyway, I love you, Sheila Seppi. Thank you for working 24/7 and giving me and everyone here and all the people that you touch so much love. You are one of my few favorite people on the planet that really care. That you have no ego. You are here to serve and help, and you do it with such love and kindness and fun. And I've loved becoming friends with you, and we got to travel together and do a lot more things. But thank you from the bottom of my heart and my new system. Thank you for that. So anyway,
you're welcome. It's my honor. And give your thanks though to the Angelics and the Andromedas.
I do.
I'm just the conduit.
I know. Well, beautiful one you are. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary.